You are watching round 3 of the Hi-Tech Oils Australian Super Truck Nationals. Lockie Mansell and Gary O'Brien in the commentary box with you. But as well as the on-track trucks, we've also got some historic trucks on display in the paddock. And to tell us more about one very special truck that has made an appearance at Winton this weekend, here's category manager Charlie Zammert.
If you have a good look at this truck here, for a start, you've got spider wheels. They're banned now. We can't use them only because the speeds that we go to, the grip that these trucks have, could probably blow those the lug nuts off. If you have a good look at this truck, it's a basic. It's what we thought was going to make it go fast. Not necessarily made it go fast. It's what we thought was going to make it go fast. So it's basically a standard truck, right? Whereas these things here now, they're just a race vehicle, a complete race vehicle. Even though we sort of really can't. We can't buy any fast parts. We've got to make them ourselves, which is what makes it good for me because I love it. Now there's a lot of interaction with how to make it go fast. Everyone sort of wants each other to be up there, and information gets shared around. Whereas back then, no information got shared around. Different time.
Awesome to have some beautifully presented historic trucks from a variety of different eras on the track at Winton Raceway doing some parade laps. And Gary, trucks obviously a big part of Australian culture due to their necessity in road transport, but truck racing in Australia, it's been going since 1988, so some 34 years.
The irony, of course, is the first meeting at Calder back in 1988 was very wet as well, but since then there's been quite a few different champions. Steve Zammett's got 5. Rodney Quick, who he could well equal this weekend, has 6. Bob Middleton had 4. Bo Hewitt 3. And the great Inky Tulloch from New Zealand has won 3 also. Big crowds back in the days of the 1980s with over 29,000 at Oran Park for one particular meeting. And the biggest crowd they had, biggest collection of trucks they had was 22 racing at Oran Park. And of course, others that have raced in the championship have been Brad Jones, Alan Grice, Dick Johnson, Gary Wilmington, Mal Rose, and New Zealanders Robbie Francevic, who won the Australian title in touring cars back in the mid-80s, Denny Holm, Jim Richards, Avon Hyde, Gary Davies, and Kurt Jorgensen, who came out here from Sweden to run the original Volvo.
But more recently, we've seen drivers like David Cedars, who's gone on to have success in other categories, and also Barry Sheen. So some great categories have raced in trucks over the years. There's some great characters still on the grid to this very day. As we get ourselves set for race 3, a full reverse grid based on the results from race 2. And that means we've got the Fern brothers, Riley and Lockie Fern on the front row of the grid. Back to Mark Schutz in position 3. Anthony Tringali out of 4th spot ahead of Mark Noonan. Robbie Fern, Shannon Smith, Barry Butwell, and our race 2 winner Stephen Zammett starting on the back row of the grid. He'll have to fight his way up through the field.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to be on one of those Isuzus up the front. We've mentioned already that they're having problems getting traction with the light rear ends of these trucks, and they've got all those big heavy beasts coming up behind them.
It's been an interesting start in very treacherous conditions here at Winton Raceway. The fast trucks starting at the back and having to fight their way forward. Despite the inclement weather conditions, still a decent crowd that's turned out at Winton Motor Raceway to watch some spectacular truck racing. It's the brothers on the front row of the grid. Let's see if they show some brotherly love and respect for one another, or if it's elbows out from the word go. Set for the rolling start. Down to turn number 1, you'll see that the trucks are a bit tightly bunched up. That's a rule change in the way that they do their start procedures to try and minimise incidents at the first corner. But we see Barry Butwell with a big move around the outside, and here comes Mark Noonan as well. And look at Shannon Smith up on the curb, barging his way up the inside and spinning into the infield. One of our title contenders has gone at turn 2 and finds himself stuck in the mud.
Hopefully he can get it out of there, although it's not looking good at this stage. In the meantime, we've got Tringali in front, Fern in second, that's Robbie Fern, and Butwell up the 3rd spot already.
Robbie Fern down the inside of Anthony Tringali as they head up into turn 5. You can see that the light trucks have already been shuffled back, and Stephen Zammett, I think he had to take a bit of evasive action there on that opening lap to avoid the chaos that was unfolding around him, but that's a massive blow to Shannon Smith's title chances, stuck in the mud, and the safety car has been called.
Now they'll all have to just slow up and get ready to pick up the... Well, has he just gone past under the safety car?
Well, Barry Butwell certainly hasn't slowed up there. It looks like he has potentially made a move after the safety car had been called. Here's a look at what happened to Shannon Smith. He had to be aggressive. He had to take a risk because he had to do whatever he could to keep himself in title calculations, but an aggressive move. You could say that he got up on the very slippery ripple strip at the apex of turn 2. That has unsettled his truck and carted him out into the mud. Good job from the recovery crews to get Shannon Smith towed back onto the circuit, and he'll be able to resume the race, but he will be a lap down on the field, so basically out of contention. And provided that Steven Zammit finishes ahead of Shannon Smith in this race, Steven Zammit will have an unassailable championship lead heading into the 4th and final race of the weekend.
Right, now that he's back on circuit, I guess we can get this race back underway. But we'll up the second spot. That's been a great opening lap, but there's a question mark now about whether he'll be able to hold on to that or whether he'll be penalised.
Well, he has readdressed, so he's slotted back in behind Robbie Fern for the safety car restart, but it'll be up to the officials in race control to decide whether perhaps he should have actually just slowed down and not made that manoeuvre once the safety car had been deployed. There is a forlorn Shannon Smith getting up the inside of Mark Schutz. It's not a move for race position because Smith is a lap down after that spin at turn 2.
Yeah, also you can't redress in truck racing as far as I'm aware, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. In the meantime, it's Robbie Fern out in front, and we'll call Butwell in second. He may not stay there. Tringali is next, then it's Noonan in 4th position, and then a gap back as Zammit tries to get past the first of the Fern truck, so the boys, I should say, and he has Smith right behind him at this point. He does make that move work, coming through the cleavage up into the run down the back straight.
Thing here for Steven Zammit, as they will have seen that Shannon Smith had dramas at the beginning of the race, as we say this is for the lead, but well down the inside, makes the move through on Robbie Fern to take the, I suppose we can say, the provisional lead of the motor race. But Steven Zammit, he knows that he can be a bit conservative in this race. He's seen that Shannon Smith is a lap down and out of contention, so Zammit will know at this point that all he has to do is keep it on the track and get it to the checkered flag, and that will be enough for him to secure the title.
You would think that Butwell will rue that spin in the first race as a result, as a recall. And here's a replay of that pass, and I think he did this in the race before, the same spot, didn't he?
It seems to be his favourite overtaking spot. He's certainly very confident under brakes, and we've seen that the Max Superliner has been quick in the wet all weekend. But I've got some news for race control, Gary, and it's not good news for Barry Butwell. The officials have decided that that move on Robbie Fern when the safety car was deployed was not a legal move, and he is going to have 10 seconds out as his race time at the end of this one.
Was there a touch there between Tringali and Fern? I think there was, yeah. Tringali's gone around, just the slightest little bump at the back, and it's been enough in these conditions to spin the International Transstar around.
You're right, it was only the lightest of touches on the run-up through turn number 5, and Anthony Tringali now finds himself parked in a bit of an awkward position. Here's how it looked on board. So Mark Noonan is just down the inside. Like you say, it was only a light touch, but because it happened behind the rear axle there, that was enough to unsettle Tringali's truck and cart him into a spin. It's a shame for Anthony Tringali because he's having what you would have to say is his most competitive round since joining the Australian Super Truck Championship. That international has been a very strong package in these wet weather conditions.
And here he is on the recovery now. So he heads off onto his final lap. Watching him chasing one of the Fern Isuzus down into turn 1. That's Riley Fern in the white Isuzu. Here's a look from Barry Butwell, who is our leader on track, but not necessarily. Depends if he can get the space that he needs. He might hold on to a top 3 spot out of this.
He's certainly not going to be 10 seconds ahead of Robbie Fern as they come out of the last corner, so it will be Barry Butwell who will cross the line in first position, but the race win is going to go the way of Robbie Fern, who comes through in second position on the track in the Volvo. Mark Noonan, good job coming home in third on the track, but by the time we apply that 10-second penalty to Barry Butwell, that's actually going to be second place for Mark Noonan, so one of his best results in truck racing so far as well.
And the result of Smith going off on the first lap has improved Steve Zammett's championship quest with what we'd imagine would be a fourth position.
Indeed, and that, by my calculations, will be an unassailable lead for Stephen Zammett. So, by coming home in position 4, Zammett will clinch the title with a race to spare. Robbie Fern, though, comes home to take your race victory in race 3 for Hi-Tech Oil's Super Truck Nationals, presented this weekend by Euro Truck Parts. Well, it was another dramatic start for race number 3 of the Super Trucks of Winton. Shannon Smith, we saw that he got into strife at turn 2 in the previous race. He got into even more strife at turn 2 in this race, trying an ambitious move up the inside, got out onto the curb, got into the side of Riley Fern, went spinning off into the infield, and that was his faint championship hopes over and out.
Yeah, well, it didn't matter whether he was going down the outside or the inside, he seemed to have problems at that turn.
So he got stuck in the mud. The safety car was deployed, and that created its own bit of controversy for Barry Butwell, who made a move on Robbie Fern for what was the race lead, but he would later get penalised by the officials for overtaking under safety car conditions. We saw Anthony Tringali copping a tap from Mark Noonan up at turn 5, which saw the international driver spinning and facing the wrong way. He was able to rejoin and recover. It was a case of a rapidly diminishing hole. Only light contacts between the two trucks, but it was enough to cart Tringali into a spin.
And we got on board of him recovering, getting around the Riley Fern truck.
In the end, it was Robbie Fern who took victory in that race. Let's catch up with our drivers down in the pits.
Yeah, considering how wet it is out there, it was a good race. Yeah, getting past the little trucks and yeah, a bit of slip sliding and yeah, got me way through and I was gone.
Yeah, we had a good start. We were doing all right. Yeah, we got through the carnage at the first corner, but yeah, didn't turn out that good because then we got the yellow flag and we passed under yellow. Which well, never mind. After I'd gone down the straight, I looked to my right to the flags and I seen the yellow was out. I said, oh well, we're in trouble here. Better pull up and let Fernie back in front of me. Shannon's probably wrapped up second place and we should end up third. Yeah, that's how. Just go out there and enjoy it. Finish the race without destroying the trucks and we'll be right.
Yeah, I tried to get up the front there and hold it, but yeah, it didn't work out. But I couldn't move over. I had sort of two wheels in the track, two in the mud, and it was going okay. But I think Riley came across the other truck there and sort of sandwiched him and bounced off him and ended up in the paddock. It's all done, I think. Stephen's got it in the bag now, so just a bit of a fight over second. Reverse grid as well, so it's going to be an interesting race. 10 laps, always test everyone out. So yeah, it's tough, but he's earned it. He's had a fair crack this year, but his truck's it's set up really well for the wet. He's done a good job. He deserves it. So.
Well, Stephen Zammett might now have an insurmountable margin in the Super Truck Championship, but there are still bragging rights on the line as we get set for the final truck race of season 2022. The 10-lap Super Free with a full reverse grid from qualifying is up very soon. This is the third and final round of the Hi-Tech Oil's Australian Super Truck Championship for 2022. There was supposed to be a fourth round, Gary O'Brien, but unfortunately with all of the drama happening at Wakefield Park at the moment, that round had to be abandoned.
Made the job for Steve Zammett a lot easier, hasn't it? And while he's kept his nose clean, the others are falling over around him.
So he will come into this fourth and final race with an insurmountable points lead. The grid positions determined based on a reverse of the order in qualifying, which sees Riley and Lockie Fern on the front row of the grid back to Mark Noonan and Anthony Tringali, Mark Schutz and Robbie Fern next, followed by Shannon Smith and then Barry Butwell and Stephen Zammett at the rear of the field. As mentioned in the previous race, the rules have been changed. The field now has to be more tightly bunched together coming up to the rolling start, and that's to try and minimise the number of incidents that we've seen at turn 1. Well, it might have minimised the incidents of turn 1, but it's been turn 2 where all of the actions have been in the last couple of races, Gary.
It certainly has, and they also actually go green further along on that straight, where as opposed to where they would have been now in previous events.
So the idea is to have them carrying a bit less speed when they get to the first corner, and it is going to be young Lockie Fern on the outside who will lead them down into turn number 1 for the first time. Elbows will be out in this race. The championship has been decided, but there are still bragging rights on the line. These truck drivers will still want to put on a good show for the crowd who have turned out in force at Winton despite the challenging weather conditions. We ride on board with Mark Noonan. He gains a spot by slipping up the inside of Riley Fern, moves through into 4th position. That's Anthony Trigali, who's had a really good start, already up to 2nd position behind Lockie Fern on this opening lap.
Well, Trigali had a big spin, or not a spin, but a slide through turn 2 as he tried to get positions, and he ended up in 2nd spot in the early stages. And while back here, it's a traffic jam basically to find their way around.
Not easy to pass in these trucks, and the weather conditions, if anything, even worse than they were before. The rain has intensified here at Winton Raceway, so there's not going to be a lot of grip on the circuit. We've seen that Anthony Tringali's truck has been pretty handy in the wet conditions all weekend, as Stephen Zammit shoots past Mark Schutz on the run out of turn 8. And here is Trigali challenging for the lead down the inside into the final sequence of corners. And he'll make the move through under brakes and relieve Lockie Fern of position 1.
Look at the amount of water on the track there, and it was Noonan who went down the outside of Fern to get that spot away and then almost threw it away before they got out of the S's.
Huge patches of standing water on the apexes of turns 8, 9 and 10, and that's something the drivers are going to need to be very careful of. You can see the amount of spray that's being thrown up by the trucks, so there will be some sections of the circuit that will have considerably less grip just because of the amount of standing water. As we see that Lockie Fern, having lost the lead, is now being elbowed out high and wide as Butwell sends it down the inside at turn 2.
Do you think Barry Butwell's got something to prove in this race?
Well, he'll be a bit frustrated because he'll feel that he's had the fastest truck all weekend. The DNF in race number 1 cost him a lot of points, and he will be wanting to do everything that he can. Obviously, the championship's now out of reach, but 2nd ahead of Shannon Smith is still a mathematical possibility, and that's what Butwell will be aiming for.
Yeah, it didn't help his cause, but then Shannon Smith had a similar situation happen to him, so it'll be interesting to see how they turn up in the end. Tringali continues to lead, Noonan in 2nd, Robbie Fern in 3rd spot, then we've got Butwell and Smith and Zammit just in behind, and it's congestion central around there at the moment.
How good is this? The top 6 trucks absolutely nose to tail as they complete the 2nd lap. It is an absolute traffic jam, and down the inside here goes Barry Butwell for a move through on Robbie Fern. Can he get the Big Mac Superliner stopped? Only just, and he skillfully negotiates his way through those patches of standing water through turn 7, or through turns 8 and 9.
Noonan all sideways out of that last corner. Now we can see Zammit trying to work his way up the inside of Smith. And was he able to get that move done? He's got traffic right in front of him, so I don't know if he's got away with it. He hasn't. But it was congestion as soon as he got up to alongside of Smith. There was nowhere else to go.
Smith managing to hold station on the outside as they negotiate their way around turns 1 and 2. Zammit got a really good exit from turn 2, but just didn't have the track space to go anywhere. In these trucks, because they're so big and so wide, track position is such an important part of these races that Anthony Trigali at the moment leading the race, doing a really good job of fending off the attacks from behind. It's Mark Noonan who's putting the pressure on at the moment. We saw that those 2 trucks came to blows in the previous race.
We've seen the rise of Tringali when he first started racing. That truck was nowhere near the pace, and they've just worked and worked at it, and now it's up there amongst the best trucks going around.
Indeed, and Anthony Trigali, by his own admission, has improved his driving as well, and he's done a really good job in these wet weather conditions. Doesn't really struggle for straight line speed either, the international. He was actually able to pull away from Mark Noonan down the back straight, but Noonan gathers him back up under brakes. We've still got this 6 truck freight train of vehicles all battling it out at the front of the field.
All Noonan's got to do is just keep it on the black stuff, and I think he'd be pretty right there. As we now see Zammit again try to get past Smith on a little front straight, the pit straight you'd call it, I guess. And this time I think he's managed to do it. I don't know if Smith would want to stay out where he is there at the moment, given what happened in the earlier race.
He's making a fight of this though, Shannon Smith, and hangs tough on the outside. I thought, like you, Gary, that Stephen Zammit had that move done and dusted, but Shannon Smith has proven us both wrong and manages to hold on to what will be fifth position.
Maybe he learned from the earlier race about where you can place your truck once you get on the outside of turn 2.
Brave driving from Shannon Smith as he continues to position his truck perfectly. Oh, big moment for Mark Noonan at turn 5. Opens the door for Barry Butwell, who's through into second position.
Yeah, I think Butwell basically had the move done. It's just that he got a little bit easier with Noonan having that little bit of a moment on the exit.
Zammit and Smith side by side once again as well, heading into turn 7. And once again, I think it is Shannon Smith who's held on. Here is Barry Butwell challenging for the lead. Down the inside of Anthony Tringali into turn 8. Tringali squeezing him out of road in the braking zone. They make contact. Tringali gets forced wide. Butwell will be on the outside. Wow, Tringali was right across the curb there and fortunately was able to avoid understeering into the side of Barry Butwell, but we do have a new race lead. Butwell is through to the front.
He wasn't going to give that away easy, was he? He really fought all the way that he could, and now he's getting into more trouble. And yeah, another spin for Tringali.
Oh, that's a shame, isn't it, after such a good performance to hold on to the lead for as long as he did. Spins it off the road at turn number 1. I think that could have been because he might have had some mud on his tyres from the previous corner, which meant that he would have arrived down at that first corner with a bit less grip than what he would have been anticipating.
I think it might have been the adrenaline was running enough water there to wash the tyres clean fairly quickly, I would have thought, but there he goes around. Very unfortunate. It's not the first time we've seen him spun around. He actually, if you recall, he spun on the slowdown lap in the first race today.
That's what it looks like from Mark Noonan's truck. You can see Mark Noonan glancing out the left-hand side of his truck. Leave me out of this, he says.
Shakes her head and has a bit of a laugh, no doubt. Still, we have this battle between Smith and Zammit. And Smith, what would he be trying to prove? If he stays ahead in Zammit, could he be saying, I've got the pace, I just didn't have the luck? Perhaps.
Well, you always want to finish off the season with a win as well and carry that momentum into the next season. We've seen that Barry Butwell's been very competitive for a number of seasons now in the Super Truck Championship, but he's not been able to put a whole season campaign together, and he would dearly love to be able to fight for the championship. He's had some bad luck with mechanical problems, in particular with turbo failures. With the engine of that Max Superliner, they actually reverted to a single turbo setup at one point. They weren't able to get the performance that they wanted, so they've reverted back to the twin turbo configuration. And the truck does seem to be running pretty well now. All Barry Butwell needs is a bit of luck if he is to contend for the title in future seasons.
A little bit of a guard hanging off the left front of Fern's truck, Robbie Fern's truck there, but it shouldn't be a drama. A little bit loose, probably from a little bit of contact, because there has been the odd bit of rubbing and getting past in this race.
By virtue of consistency this weekend, Robbie Fern is looking pretty good to finish on the podium overall for the weekend, as is Mark Noonan. In fact, both those drivers have been very consistent throughout all of the races that we've had this weekend.
Well, it's good to see that, at least in the wet weather, that there's not a lot of difference between the top 6 trucks, as you pointed out earlier.
Rain is the great equaliser in any form of motorsport, and the same applies to truck racing. Stephen Zammit's truck, we know, is extremely quick in dry weather conditions. We saw that in qualifying in the previous round in the dry, he went very, very close to the lap record for trucks at Winton Motor Raceway, so we know that there's no performance deficit in the SRZ direct power steering Kenworth. We've seen that truck's had previous success as well, Gary, in the hands of Rob Russell.
Well, it's coming up to 7 drivers' championships, given that it's had such a big history. And it's probably won a fair few of the teams championships as well.
But at the conclusion of this weekend, Gary, Stephen and his dad Charlie and the rest of the crew at SRZ Racing, they're going to do a bit of maintenance on that truck. They're going to rebuild the engine. They're putting on the boats go over to New Zealand. And over the summer, Stephen's going to race the New Zealand Truck Racing Championship.
Yeah, run their championship a little bit different. They actually have handicap races rather than reverse grid, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes there. And of course, Aussies have been to New Zealand in the past, and likewise the Kiwis have been over here and had quite a bit of success.
Inky Tulloch, probably the most prominent Kiwi driver, you would have to say, Gary, who has come over to Australia and beaten a lot of the Aussies on their home turf, a bit like what we've seen for a number of seasons in the Supercars Championship lately.
Yeah, well, the Kiwis would love these conditions, wouldn't they?
They certainly would. And here is Stephen Zammit lining up for a move on Shannon Smith. Smith runs the defensive line down into the braking zone at turn 8 and manages to hold out Stephen Zammit for the time being.
Been a good job, and they're still inside of the leaders, which I find fascinating. We felt with the longer 10-lap race that this might not have been the case, but certainly has been very close all the way through.
There's no doubt that the inclement weather conditions have made overtaking quite difficult. Once you get out of that, I'm not going to call it a dry line, I'll call it a less wet line. It does become extremely slippery. There's still patches of standing water off the racing line in a lot of corners, which makes overtaking tricky in these conditions, and that's why they've been nose to tail for so long, because it's pretty much a single file racetrack out there at the moment.
Yeah, apart from Shannon Smith and Barry Butwell, who have been doing most of the passing and also most of the spinning, you're right, there hasn't been a lot of other ways to get past trucks in front of you.
So here is the race leader, Barry Butwell. He was first across the line in race 3, but popped a post-race penalty, which relegated him back a couple of spots. This time, no cloud hanging over his head other than the clouds that are in the sky, and lots of them here at Winton Motor Raceway this weekend. But in terms of the race situation, Barry Butwell very much in control at the moment. Zammit again with a good run out of turn 7, pulls up alongside Shannon Smith in the braking zone at turn 8, but he'll be on the wrong side of the road. Smith will be on the inside line, and once again manages to fend off Stephen Zammit in the battle for position 4.
He'd be testing the water out there, no doubt, by feigning to the left-hand side, knowing that the move wasn't on, but at least giving something to Shannon Smith to worry about.
Testing the water being the operative word out there, because as we've said, when you pull off the racing line, there is a lot of water, as a mistake from Robbie Fern running wide at turn 1 and loses a couple of spots with both Smith and Zammit getting through.
We'll keep an eye on Zammit, because he is a chance to try and pass Smith at some stage. Where's the opportunity going to come? Is it going to come in the cleavage, or is it going to go down to that final corner into the S's?
While those two are battling, the top two have pulled away. Barry Butwell with a nice margin over second place, Mark Noonan in the Scania. Mark Noonan's had a really good weekend. Very satisfied with the way that truck's performing. Hard to believe based on how well that Scania goes out on track, that for a number of years it's had pretty much derelict in a farm field and had to be totally rebuilt. It was formerly raced by Mark's dad, Brian Noonan, but it's great to see it back out on track and looking so beautifully presented.
Coming down to start the final lap after they get through these corners, so there won't be much more chance for Zammit to try and pick a spot off, although Smith has understeered wide out of that corner, and now Zammit will try and get down the inside of him. Will they go side by side through turn 1 again?
They will, and I reckon that this time Stephen Zammit will be in a better position. Once again, Shannon Smith is going to try and hang around the outside. He'll make a fight out of it, but Zammit has the track position and will swing through into third spot at turn number 2. And like you said, Gary, that was all set up because Shannon Smith made a mistake at the second to last corner, understeered, that compromised his exit speed out of turn 10, and that was what allowed Stephen Zammit to pull up alongside and get down the inside into turn 1.
There we see Smith now just rounding out one of the Isuzus, knowing that the fight is basically done.
Low light conditions here at Winton Motor Raceway, and we're starting to see the front brake discs on some of these trucks glowing red hot, as you can imagine, given the high mass of these vehicles. The brakes do work very, very hard, especially here at Winton, where there's not a lot of recovery time for them.
So is it possible that Zammit may get another spot on this last lap? In the meantime, no. Barry Butt will come down through the last series of corners for the final time.
So, Barry Butwell, it's been a weekend of what might have been for the back Superliner driver blisteringly quick in the wet conditions, but a DNF in race one sent him back some points. But he does take out the final race of the season in the 2022 High-Tech Oil Super Truck Nationals. Mark Noonan manages to hold out Stephen Zammit in the run to the line. And then it's Shannon Smith who comes home in fourth position, with Robbie Fern completing your top 5 finishes across the line. Another sensational weekend of racing for the Super Trucks despite the weather conditions. Confirmation of your results: Butwell from Noonan, and your newly crowned champion, 6-time champion Stephen Zammit in third spot. Back to Shannon Smith, Robbie Fern, Anthony Tringali after an unfortunate spin, finishing down in 6th position. Lockie Fern best of the light truck runners in 7th, with Mark Schutz and Riley Fern completing your field.
Highlights of the Super Prix, and a very tight start to this one with them all formed up. Reverse of qualifying, of course, and very tight into turn 1 with Barry Butler making a move on one of the Fern Isuzus.
The conditions for the wettest they've been all weekend, and that made overtaking even more difficult than what it would normally be in Super Truck racing. And Anthony Tringali did a really good job in the opening laps. He was under massive pressure from behind, but he did a sensational job to keep the lead for as long as he did. However, it all came unravelled for him at turn 1 with a spin while running in 2nd position just after being overtaken for the lead by Barry Butwell. That caused the number 92 International Franstar driver to drop down to 6th.
Yeah, it wasn't the way that he wanted to finish. He held them out for so long. He did such a good job. And then we've seen this great dice between Smith and Zammit. Came down to the last lap before he made the move stick and the run to turn 1.
That was all set up with a slight mistake for Shannon Smith heading into the final sequence of corners. It has been a great fight between him and Stephen Zammit. It was eventually Zammit who took the position, but coming through to take the win, Barry Butwell, who had been really, really fast all weekend in the wet conditions, finally managing to get the job done. In terms of the final championship points, Stephen Zammit takes his 6th Super Truck title by 32 points ahead of Shannon Smith. Barry Butwell, in the final analysis, just 3 points behind Shannon Smith, so the non-finish for him in race 1, you would have to say, costing him the runner-up spot in the championship. Robbie Fern, 4th in the standings ahead of Mark Schutz. Frank Amoroso, no points for him out of the last 3 races this weekend, finishing up equal on points with Mark Schutz in position number 5. It is Celebration Central down in the Super Truck paddock. Stephen Zammit earning a record equaling 6th national title. Let's catch up with our Super Truck combatants down in the paddock.
You know, we didn't expect to be in this position after the season that we had, but yeah, the last 2 rounds have been good to us, so we're happy to take this one. Lucky that the truck is so good out in the wet, and the team have done just such a great job of preparing it.
Yeah, we tried our best, but yeah, Stephen, he earned it. He did well. There's probably a few issues there that cost us, but at the end of the day, that's racing, and we'll be fighting next year for it. So
it's been a long, hard year, and we've worked our asses off to get this back in the stables back at Ingleburn. But mate, super stoked to get it back, and man, it was a tough year. All year was very strong. The competition was, mate, it was really good quality this year, so we really worked hard for it.
Well, there you go. Stephen Zammit has well and truly established himself as one of the legends of Australian super truck racing, and no doubt he will be back in 2023 to defend his title. Thanks for your company right throughout the 2022 coverage of the High-Tech Oil's Australian Super Truck Championship. On behalf of Gary O'Brien, I'm Lockie Mansell. See you next time. Bye for now.
Motorsport. On this week's episode, we'll introduce you to the FIA Rally Star winner from Africa. We'll go back in time to the historic Grand Prix in Zandvoort, and we'll have spectacular truck racing action, plus much, much more from FIA World of Motorsport. The FIA Rally Star is a global talent detection program organized by the FIA and its clubs. The project's main objective is to search for rising stars of tomorrow while promoting grassroots motorsports around the globe. After the finals in Europe and the Middle East, the African finals is the third of 6 FIA Rally Star Continental Finals in 2022. The Zwartkops Raceway near Pretoria, South Africa welcomed 28 drivers from 8 countries to the African final.
Welcome to the third Continental FIA Rally Star final at Zwartkops in South Africa.
The winner will join Estonia's Romet Jurgensen, who triumphed at the FIA Rally Star European Final, and Oman's Abdullah Al-Taki, the winner of the Rally Star MENA Final, to participate in the FIA Rally Star training season, where he will move a step closer to a possible dream drive in the FIA Junior WRC Championship. The top female competitor qualifies for the FIA Rally Star Women's Final in North America later this year.
We're looking for the ideal driver. We're looking for the new talent, ideally somebody who didn't do motorsport before, but we can see a speed already here. Obviously, speed is crucial in rallying and in all kinds of motorsports. Yeah, ideal candidate. Hopefully, we're going to find one today.
Stage 1 was a bit tricky in the sense of I've never driven with such a small clutch, in the sense of there's so little clutch, and then I stalled in my first run. My second run I gained confidence, and today it was, when we came here, it was just flat foot. So we just got into it, we knew what the assignment was, we executed it, and I had so much fun doing it.
It's amazing. This is such a great opportunity for us as young ones that haven't really gotten exposed to the rally world, with organising everything that's running so smoothly. So yeah, I'm absolutely loving it.
Behind the wheel of the TN5 cross cars from Thierry Neuville's Life Live organization, the competitors got their first feel for the 900-meter mixed surface course, which has been built especially for the third FIA Rally Star Continental Final.
It was not a huge challenge to organize this event because we had the full support of Motorsport South Africa people who helped us to find the circuit. We know there is a great passion for rallying in Africa. We have people coming from multiple countries.
Keep it straight, brake early, slow the car down, I'm not really hard.
From one session to another, they improve their times. The competition is getting closer and closer. Yesterday was a learning day. Today we have more competition, and that's the good thing.
And I'm very privileged to be here. I know many people would have loved to be here and try to drive the cross karts.
I'm absolutely loving it. It's a lot of fun driving these cars, and I'm having a good time.
The winner of each Continental Final can look forward to 6 rallies in an M Sport Ford Fiesta Rally 3 during the FIA Rally Star training season. At the end of 2023, the best 4 FIA Rally Star team members will be rewarded with a season in the FIA Junior WRC Championship 2024. For the young talents, this presents a chance of a lifetime.
Welcome to the last day of the African Regional Rally Star Final. We've got an exciting program with 12 finalists and 2 ladies in a shootout as well.
I think Rally Star is absolutely fantastic, and not only for South Africa but for the African continent. It's a very affordable way of getting involved in motorsport and to really see whether you've got the talent and the attributes to become a good racing driver.
It's not just speed on the track that we've been looking for. We measure that in different ways. We've looked at fitness, we've looked at reaction times, we've had a lengthy interview, we've had feedback from the driver coach here. So we've really been looking at these drivers very carefully for the future potential star from the African continent.
In the women's event, 20-year-old Christy Ellis from South Africa came out on top. And 19-year-old Max Smart from South Africa was crowned FIA Rally Star African Final winner.
Absolutely surreal. I think it's still sinking in, but it's a great, great feeling.
It's a dream come true, eh? I'm honestly shocked, and I believed in myself going into this event, and I'm flipping so happy to have this.
Rally is a fascinating sport. Thousands of teams worldwide love to rally off ordinary roads, from the youngest talents to the most experienced rally teams. In 2018, the new FIA Rally Car Pyramid was approved by the World Motorsport Council, and from 2021, the new FIA categories bring greater accessibility, more safety, and driver development potential to national and international rally championships. The FIA Rally Car Pyramid offers a simple class structure for all FIA Rally championships, from entry level to the pinnacle of the discipline. Just like single-seater racing, in which the most high-performance cars are Formula One machines, Rally is adopting a similar nomenclature. The smallest figure is synonymous with the summit of the pyramid.
Well, it is really understandable now, and as well for us drivers, we now know which is the next step. So it's really nice.
Rally is like any other market. You need to have the product for the good people. Not all the people have the same budget. They don't have all the same ambition. So for us, it was really important to offer a product for each customer.
The groups are spread out between two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive cars, like Rally 3 to Rally 1. Furthermore, categories Rally 5 and Rally 3 are based on accessibility, while the others are dedicated to performance. At the base of the pyramid, Group Rally 5 represents the ideal option for entering rally. Rally 5 is a basic rally car, but the competition level is very high. The guiding principle of Rally 5 regulations is simplicity. The only components that have to be approved by the FIA are the body shell, the seat mountings, and the harness. The other components are either from the production car or free. It's never been so easy to get into rallying. For 40,000 euros, Ford and Renault offer ready-built models that are really ready to rally. But if you build it yourself, you can save up to 30 or 40%. Another big advantage is these cars offer the possibility to easily move up to Rally 4. Rally 4 incorporates the highest performance front-wheel drive cars. Apart from the roof hatch and the openings on the bonnet, the Rally 4 retains the look of a production car. Under the hood, however, it's a proper competition car with a sequential gearbox and an engine tuned to develop 210 horsepower. All Rally 4 cars share the same characteristics for better sporting equity: a 30mm turbo restrictor, weight set at 1,080 kilograms, 330mm disc brakes, and 17-inch wheels on the tarmac. Rally 3 is the next step and the first step into four-wheel drive cars. Rally 3s can be described as Rally 4s with a four-wheel drive. The big plus, the manufacturers can in fact reuse many components from the two-wheel drive versions, such as the engine, suspension, brakes, wheels, and much more. These accessible and more affordable cars will allow all drivers to have fun at the wheel of a four-wheel drive car. The other two four-wheel categories are Rally 2 and Rally 1. Rally 2 represents the pinnacle for customer competitors.
It's really good to drive these cars because they are working really, really well. And when you are going on the limits in Rally 2 car, it's something incredible because the car is working. It's like that there is no physics in the car.
And Rally 1 are the top-level cars of the World Rally Championships. The ultimate goal of every rally team, and thanks to the new FIA Rally Car Pyramid, everyone can now find the product that best meets their needs. The race weekend at the Nürburgring is always a very special stop on the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship calendar. After last year's races had to be cancelled short notice due to the flood disaster, 100,000 fans are now cheering and celebrating the return of truck racing. Of course, most of them hope for a victory of the 6-time European champion Jochen Hahn from Germany. But the big favorite is the reigning champion Norbert Kisch. The Hungarian was able to win 8 of 12 races and traveled to the Nürburgring as the leader in the overall standings. Sascha Lenz is second with 128 points and Jochen Hahn in third. And Norbert Kisch starts the weekend in dominant fashion. In race 1, he celebrates a lights-to-flag victory, number 9 for the season. Adam Lachko comes in second place, and Jochen Hahn completes the podium in third. There are 4 races on each race weekend, and in the second race, Jochen Hahn's son, Lukas Hahn, is on pole position. At the Nürburgring, the start has even more significance. Next to Lukas Hahn, André Kurzim is also on row 1, and Steffi Halm is right behind him. So 3 German drivers among the top 4. Lukas Hahn with a good start, but André Kurzim is directly under pressure. Steffi Halm moves forward on the inside. Theo Calvé tries it on the outside. In the first right-hand corner, it gets tight on track, but all the trucks get through the first corners well. Antonio Albertzi takes advantage of this situation to move up to second position. Steffi Halm is in third. The trucks have lined up one behind the other and the action is kept to a minimum. Only Norbert Kisch, who started from 8th place, is trying to fight his way forward through the field. Kisch has moved up to 5th place, and meanwhile Steffi Halm has to fend off the attacks of Jochen Hahn, who has to keep an eye on Kisch, who's pushing hard behind him. Then Norbert Kisch manages to overtake Jochen Hahn for 4th position, but the victory goes to Lukas Hahn. For the first time, the son of Jochen is on top of the podium, and that at the Nürburgring of all places. Antonio Albertzi is second. Steffi Halm defends the last place on the podium until the very finish. The next day in race 3, Jochen Hahn has pole position. Next to him is Sascha Lenz. Norbert Kisch, only in 10th on the grid, has to clean up the field from the back once again. Hahn, Lenz, Lachko, Albertzi, Halm, and Kisch already up to 6th spot. Then the Hungarian passes Steffi Halm. Unfortunately, the gap to the first 3 drivers is already a bit bigger and Kisch can't catch up. After Lukas Hahn, Jochen Hahn also wins a race at the Nürburgring, his first success since Misano 2021. Sascha Lenz comes in second, Antonio Albertzi again with a podium finish in 3rd place. In the last race of the weekend, Jamie Anderson has the pole position. Theo Calvé starts next to him. Steffi Halm and Adam Lachko are in row 2. An unchanged situation after a few laps. Jamie Anderson in front of Steffi Halm, then Lachko, Calvé, and Kisch. Then Theo Calvé falls back, and while Kisch's biggest rivals in the championships are stuck behind the Frenchman, Norbert Kisch overtakes Adam Lachko and then tries to push Steffi Halm out of 2nd place. And 3 laps before the end, Kisch passes Steffi Halm with a beautiful overtaking maneuver. His next target, the leader, Jamie Anderson, while Steffi Halm has to defend the last podium spot against Adam Lachko. Jamie Anderson takes the 2nd victory of his career, while Norbert Kisch moves from 10th place up to 2nd place with an impressive drive, and Steffi Halm with a well-deserved 3rd place. In the overall standings, Norbert Kisch extends his lead, while Jochen Hahn swaps places with Sascha Lenz. The Audi Quattro of Zippo and Dennis Pacino return to the winner's podium at the Rally Weiz. After technical issues cost them the win in Switzerland and Hungary, their Audi was running flawlessly in Austria. The Italian crew finished 69.3 seconds ahead of Karl Wagner and Gerhard Zoyne's yellow Porsche 911 SC in the overall standings. The BMW M3 E30 of Marty McCormick and Barney Mitchell finished 3rd overall and won Category 4 for cars built between 1982 and 1990. Championship leader Vili Silvasti with his Lancia 037 Rally reached 5th place overall despite a persistent engine issue that dogged the car for most of the weekend. The Ford Sierra RS Cosworth 4x4 of Mats Myrsala and Esko Juntala crashed on the first stage of day 2. The Swedes emerging from the car unharmed, but a fire started at the rear end of the car, destroying the Ford Sierra. In Category 1, that's cars built before 1969, Ernie and Karen Graham claimed their 4th win of the 2022 season in their Ford Escort Twin Cam, taking the fastest Category 1 time on all 13 stages of the Rally Lights. The 6th round of the FIA Regional European Championship by Alpine took place at the Formula One circuit Hungaroring. In race 1, Dutchman Kaz Havercourt scored his first victory in the series with a lights-to-flag win. Gabriel Mini finished in 2nd position and Roman Bielinski moved up from 8th place to come in 3rd. The British driver took the first podium for the team in the series, in addition to being the fastest rookie. In the second race of the weekend, Hadrian David converted the pole position into his 2nd win of the season. Gabriel Mini finished 2nd again, and the Brazilian Gabriel Bortoleto completed the podium in 3rd. With his 2 second places, Italian driver Gabriel Mini reduces the lead from the championship leader Dino Boganovic in the overall standings to only 9 points. Valerio and David Leon have a common hobby. They both love being on the track in historic F3 race cars. Valerio and David are father and son. The special thing about this is that the 62-year-old and his 30-year younger son practice their favorite pastime against each other. Both take part in historic F3 races in Europe with their cars built in 1978. Valerio drove his first race back in 1981. In Formula 3, of course. In his old age, he returned to racing, and very successfully.
We switched to this French trophy, which is a very nice trophy, and we started racing in this category. I won 4 times the trophy. I won 1 time a European trophy. I won in 2019 the FIA Formula 3, and now I have my son who is beating me, and so I'm not winning much anymore.
David inherited his passion for racing from his father.
I always had a passion for cars, racing cars, and the feeling is I want to do it, I want to do it, I want to do it. Then at school I was not very good at school. I'm always follow him around Europe for track days and racings, and yeah, I always wanted to do that.
But he wasn't allowed to. In the beginning, it was all about school grades. Later, a stroke of fate hit the Leon family hard, so it took all Valerio's powers of persuasion to get his wife's consent.
That was the most difficult thing.
That was the other reason.
Because in 2004, we were in Spa with the Formula 3. It was our first ever race with the classic Formula 3 French trophy. And I won the first race. And unfortunately, in race 2, my brother had an accident and he died. And he was with me, yeah. So my wife, she never said anything against it. She was obviously not happy. She was trying to say to me, if you want to race, race, but David, I should not race.
Although he started his racing career late, he learned quickly and benefited from his father's wealth of experience.
I tried to give him the first advices, and he was a very fast learner. So now it's a couple of years that is practically always in front of me.
Even though David now mostly drives in front of his father, the younger Leon still wishes to have his consistency.
Maybe the consistency year after year of being faster and winning races and championships, which I don't have right now, because I'm faster, I learn faster, but I make a lot of mistakes.
Still has to know, to learn how to manage a race is when there might be a problem, you know, because when you are in front and everything goes well, then it's easy. But when you're in front and you start to have some problems, he's getting a little bit nervous. What he has to learn is to keep calm and concentrated.
Then the next few years in Formula 3 Historic will also be successful Leon years again. The difference this time, the driver's first name is David. The historic Grand Prix in Zandvoort is a unique experience. The event is a voyage of discovery through the rich history of motorsport. Familiar names and brands will be on display for the fans in the stands and in the paddock. From classic F1 to F3 cars from the 1980s to LMP and GT cars. For the thousands of visitors, the F1 track in the dunes north of Zandvoort is transformed into an open-air museum, one that appeals to all the senses of the fans.
The smell of the tires, the smell of the petrol, the loudness of the engines. It's great.
At that time, you can see everything, you know. If you open the hood now, it's all plastic. You can look through the car with this technique, and you can smell them too. I love it.
First is the sound of the cars. Yeah, it's the emotion of the cars and the smell of the petrol and that kind of things. That's giving me goosebumps.
The cars of the FIA Historic Formula 3 European Cup will be of particular interest. Between 1971 and 1984, F3 was the stepping stone to Formula 1 for many drivers. Later, Formula 1 legends such as Alain Prost and world champions Ayrton Senna earned their spurs in Formula 3. The FIA Historic Formula 3 European Cup is a unique celebration of the category, its cars, and its history. The cars race in two different categories. Category 1 are cars built from 71 to 78, and Category 2 are cars built from 79 to 84. For the drivers who can live out their passion in the FIA Historic Formula 3 European Cup, it's great to be able to present their cars, especially here in Zandvoort, where the first round of the European F3 Championship took place in 1978.
I think Zandvoort is a special feel, being by the seaside and such a great crowd and the sunshine. So it's a real special feel. Feels like a real Grand Prix, you know, like almost like a Formula 1 event.
It's a wonderful thing because nearly the whole western of Europe is here. We have drivers from Monaco, Italy, France, England, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, and I love that. It's really nice to meet that many people and to come together here. It's a fantastic event.
And as a driver, you can enjoy such an event even more while racing a car from the 70s or 80s.
Formula 3 cars are fabulous. Formula 3 cars are proper racing cars. So they're not incredibly fast in a straight line, but they're incredibly quick through the corners. They're just beautiful cars. They handle great. It's the early slicks and wings era. They're just incredible cars to drive.
I really like the analog nature of it. You know, it's a very physical experience, and so the actual racing is very exciting. But also you have the added history of the car and the people that raced it before. So it gives a whole dimension to racing that I didn't have perhaps in another class.
In addition, the cars are easy to repair, and the drivers often do it themselves. And Avon takes care of the right tires. As modern cars use a radial construction and historic F3 cars use an X-ply construction, the British company builds the tires specifically for historic F3 cars. Avon can supply every car from 1964 to present day and supplies all historic F3 racing series in the world with tires. And the drivers need good tires as soon as they're on track. Then no one thinks about the fact that they're sitting in a classic car.
Once you're out there, you're racing, and so everyone gives it everything, I think, on the racetrack. But we're very respectful of each other, which I do like in the historic racing. It's respectful racing, but very, very hard racing, and everyone is committed to being as quick as they can be.
I think we're respectful. We're respectful of other people and, you know, our property, but yeah, they're raced very, very hard. And the lap times are pretty much the same as they were in period, so they're raced very, very hard.
In Zandvoort, the 18 participants in the FIA Historic Formula 3 European Cup have to contest in 2 races. 9 drivers compete in each category, and the aggregate results from both races will decide the class winners. In Category 2, cars built from 1979 on, Volker Boehm finished third, Fraser Gray managed second place, and David Thorburn finished both races in fourth position, but that was enough to win the category on aggregate. In Category 1, cars built before 1979, Marco Copini finished in third position and Robert Moores came in second, but the best driver of the weekend was David Leon. He won race 1 and finished third in race 2. On aggregate, a great first place finish for the Italian. That's it for today. On our next episode of FIA Pure Motorsport, we'll show you why SSVs are the best way to start rallying. We'll have some spectacular hill climb action coming to you from Poland. And we'll have a look at how 4-time Rally Dakar winner Nasser Al-Attiyah masters the Baja Aragon. Till next time, take care everybody and ciao.